Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cryptid Files, the podcast where we talk about everything from cryptids to folklore to myths, urban legends, files, aliens,
Lots of files.
and the like. Yes, we're your hosts as always, Anthony and Charlie. Tonight we're going to be covering Walking Sam. We're going to dive into this cryptid now.
Yes.
But before we get into this one, we just want to give a bit of a disclaimer about this episode. This is a heavy cryptid. This is something that, going into it, we did not expect this. We thought this was going to be just something creepy and cool, and Charlie dug real deep.
And it just got darker and darker and darker. And basically, if topics like suicide and things like that are going to throw you over the edge, maybe do not enjoy this podcast. But there's some actual deaths involved in this that we're going to talk about, all recent within like the 2015 area. There's going to be some talk about how this legend could have negatively impacted a community. There's going to be a lot of very upsetting dark stuff. I'm not going to use any names of anybody who actually hurt themselves to protect, I guess, them.
Just family
and victims. I do have some real stories about real things that happened.
Right. So with all that being said, this is not going to be a typical episode. We will not be seeing if Charlie can fight this cryptid. And we will not be ranking this cryptid either, because we feel it's in poor taste to do both of those things, given the stories that come with this one.
Yeah.
So, if this seems a little bit on a more serious tone, a somber note, that's fine. And if it's your first time watching us, know that this is not normally what we're like. Go back and watch a couple of our other episodes on YouTube so you can understand what we're really about. But tonight is going to be a bit more of a moody.
We're gonna have a somber tone, and that's okay.
That's okay. Sometimes
it's an educational podcast, in some sort of way or another.
This is true.
So,
with all that being said, we're gonna get into this one.
Yeah, let me know what you got. Let's go.
So,
give me your description.
We are covering Walking Sam, as you all know, and Walking Sam comes to us from the Wind Cave National Park in South Dakota.
Yeah,
his first sightings began with the Oglala Lakota Nation.
Yeah.
And it was a legendary figure. He was kind of a, what do you call it? Like a ferryman for the souls of the dead back in the Lakota days.
Yeah.
He's described as 7 feet tall, skinny, with abnormally long arms and legs, almost like Slender Man. He has no nose or mouth, and he's always wearing a stovepipe hat. Sometimes he's seen with kind of the outline of old-timey clothes on. Sometimes he's just a straight black stick figure with the hat. And essentially what he does now, he spreads depression. And that's pretty much his power, is that he brings sadness to you. And he actually causes already sad and depressed people to become suicidal.
Yes.
And almost convinces them to commit suicide. And when they do, he collects their souls as trophies.
Yeah.
And brings them to the other side and just keeps them.
Yes.
So... yeah, that's the overview of Walking Sam. Now Charlie has all the real research, so we're gonna let Charlie tell you guys about him.
So the Pine Ridge Reservation is in the same area you were talking about. I believe it's got like a 100-mile stretch of land, and they've had some issues with clean water and electricity and things like that recently. And so in 2015, there was a wave in this community that was not super large. They had over 100 suicide attempts in just a few months on the reservation. Most of them were teenagers.
Yes.
All in 2015, in like a span of a couple months. That's a lot.
Yeah, so that's pretty large.
In 2015, U.S. Representative Kristi Noem eventually mentioned Walking Sam in Congress. This became such a common thing in the area, and it was such a fast happening thing where all these suicide attempts were happening and actual suicides. A decent amount of teenagers actually killed themselves and died during this.
Wow.
And in their notes and in sayings that they said to family members before they did it, they said Walking Sam was calling to them. This is 2015. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this was a Lakota community, or this just happened to be the same area?
Same area. I think it was a Lakota community, but it was the Pine Ridge Reservation there.
Okay, yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. So, the figure of Walking Sam. So that was just my brief overview. I'm going to dive into what he is. Basically, a modern phenomenon that draws on older Lakota traditions about wandering spirits and stick people. So, stick people are basically mysterious beings who lure people into the woods and tempt them towards harm. So they basically walk through the woods and basically lure people into dangerous situations.
Right.
And then some people also thought he seemed like a Wendigo-like figure. I didn't really see much of that in my research, though. A lot of people tend to put the Wendigo term in with anything Native American. Any Native American, they're like, oh, that's a Wendigo. I'm like, now there's like 500 other things there.
Right.
So for the Lakota Sioux, stick people are often described in Lakota lore as evil spirits or forest tricksters who lure people away, especially children and those who are vulnerable.
Right.
Navajo, they have skinwalkers.
Yep.
And Pacific Northwest tribes also have entities that resemble shadowy figures. Not always name stick people, but similar in behavior and appearance. Like the Thunderbird, there are similar aspects of it in different tribes in the Americas. All the tribes pretty much stemmed from the same influx of people coming down, and a lot of traditions have spread similar ways. So,
right.
Especially these older, like folklore.
Right.
The main thing that was being spread around the tribe was that this stick person, Walking Sam, was reaching out to depressed teenagers and telling them to basically kill themselves and convince them to do it.
Right.
And multiple people who were making these attempts were saying, I saw Walking Sam, and then they would actually make attempts or actually kill themselves. Many folklore tribal members interpret stick people as manifestations of mental illness or depression or warnings about the loss of cultural connection, especially among indigenous youth. This is now where I'm going to dive into the real events that made Walking Sam famous, which gets pretty wild. So this is all from mostly 2015, but some of his first appearances, really, where he was like popping up in the area, was 2013.
Okay.
Where they had over 100 suicide attempts reported among Lakota teens. In some cases, cluster suicides occurred. Multiple teens from the same area attempted or dying within days. Many of the youth involved left cryptic messages or referenced a tall man who wanted them to join him. So actual suicide notes were, they said, the tall man's calling to me, things like that. Community members, spiritual leaders, and even law enforcement began reporting stories of Walking Sam showing up around Wounded Knee, Pinewood Villages, abandoned buildings, Wood Reservation boundaries. In 2015, U.S. Representative Timothy Holskamp publicly addressed Congress and media about a series of suicide attempts in Pine Ridge and reports that a mysterious figure named Walking Sam was involved. So, they actually had a U.S. representative go to Congress and talk about Walking Sam and trying to figure out what's causing these teens to kill themselves. What's the driving force here? The police were looking for somebody called Walking Sam. Yeah. This was a very spiritual community too at the time. So a lot of the people in the tribe who believed in like spiritual entities like this, on like a religious aspect, were taking this very seriously. Yeah. There's a lot of people in the community that were fully convinced Walking Sam is coming around and taking advantage of depressed teens and causing them to kill themselves. The statement that the congressman made brought national attention to the crisis and to the eerie legends surrounding it. More notes here. I did a lot of research on this one, man, because I was looking for something to... this can't be this bad. And the more I dug...
It got worse.
It just got worse. Yeah. It got worse. But... yeah, this is Pastor John Tubles. He played a crucial role in preventing a group of suicide attempts upon learning of a plan involving several teenagers. He and other adults intervened just in time, the company reported. Pastor John Tubles discovered a plan for a group of children to commit suicide. He grabbed a group of adults and went straight into the straight outside of the town. Luckily, they caught the group of teenagers before it happened and were able to take down the nooses and get the teens help. So the teens were actually all hanging nooses together in the woods.
Holy shit.
Yeah. This is a sighting I'll talk about. This is elder testimony, Gloria Yellowboy. Gloria Yellowboy, a resident near Wolf Creek community, building east of Pipe Ridge, reported a disturbing encounter. There was a disturbance outside of her home after dark on April 14th, 2015. She described seeing a tall, shadowy figure, which she believed to be Walking Sam, outside her house. That's all 2015 stuff. Right. I'm going to touch more on it, but this was impacting... this is still had a lasting effect on that community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in 2019 episode of WYPR's Out of the Blocks, elders communities from Pine Ridge shared their experiences, perspectives on challenges facing their community, Impacting the legends like Walking Sam, these narratives provide deeper insight into cultural and spiritual context of the legend. So I put that in there, right, because these people were basically started diving into where did this come from? How do we shed light on this to make it not happen anymore?
Right.
And as much as the spiritual belief of this thing being real, they didn't want something like this to have power over the community.
Right.
So they basically went on the radio and were talking about like all the issues that was actually causing the suicides rather than the spiritual entity.
Right.
And I'm going to go over those right now. So the reason some of these mass suicide attempts may have been happening. The reservation that the tribe lives on is in extreme poverty. The majority of the land is unable to support crop growth. There's very little clean water. The infant mortality rate is reported to be at record highs, 18 infant deaths per 1,000 live births, which is about twice the national average. And out of those children who do get a chance to grow up, an astonishing amount are being taken away and put into foster care because of the Indian Child Welfare Act. There's very little to live for, and the life expectancy is the lowest on the Western Hemisphere besides Haiti. So
that's bad.
Yeah. On this Indian reservation in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reservation is hurting, trying to survive, but losing many in the tribe are turning to alcoholism to help deal with the horrible way of life. What's even more unfortunate is that the way they've been receiving no help from others till recently in April when the White House stepped in to help recover their plummeting economy. Besides this, recent outreach, the natives have instead been victims of cruel acts of racism. There was an account where student and teachers were drenched in beer while attending a hockey game outside of the reservation. So basically everybody outside the reservation kind of doesn't like these guys either. The other big thing was the drinking water issues. They just recently got better drinking water.
Yeah.
They were drinking well water that was tested for causing cancer and a whole bunch of other stuff in the area too. They're kind of on a not very hospitable plot of land.
Yeah.
They talk about the reservation, obviously in a very negative light there, but they're not in a good spot.
Not at all.
Yeah. Teen suicide rates in the reservation are 4 times higher than the national average. Unemployment rates between 80 and 85%. And then like a large portion of the population lives below federal poverty line. Yeah. That's that. So, is this a cryptid in my eyes? No. I think this is a society that's just being completely beaten and people are killing themselves. And I'm sure there's some spiritual effect there.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's like,
it sounds to me like it's an old cryptid, like it's an old Indian spirit.
Yeah.
And then the modern day is just referencing it as, like you said, in the notes, they're saying Walking Sam is calling me. Like, it's no different than saying I'm letting the darkness take me or something, you know?
There's actually one account that I forgot to bring up.
Okay.
This Kevin B is a 23-year-old from South Dakota. He's shared a pretty upsetting story about his friend, who I'm not going to name.
Okay.
He said, I always thought Walking Sam was just a story older kids would tell us to creep us out, but when described him, the fear in her eyes, I knew he was real. I'm terrified of our community for our young people. We need to help fight this darkness before it consumes us all. His friend did attempt suicide and left the Walking Sam. Now, I think she survived, but it was pretty bad attempt. Brutal attempts. Not bad attempts, but that's pretty much all I dug into this one, and I was like, this sucks.
Yeah, I don't blame you for stopping there.
Yeah, Walking Sam.
So now let's dive into a little bit of the theories here.
Yes.
So, like I brought up earlier, I think that the old Lakota legend may be something. It's a messenger of death, a shepherd of souls of sorts from old Lakota Indian days.
Yeah.
Now, the modern, I guess, message of him sounds more like just sheer depression.
Yeah.
And a reference being made.
Yeah.
The same way that anyone can say that the bottle is calling me or the shadows are calling me.
Yeah.
It's just that he's already like a legendary figure in that community.
Yeah.
And that's why he's being referenced in so many notes. I don't know. I wouldn't go so far as to say he's wandering around in this modern day Lakota reservation and telling kids to kill themselves? Because there's a lot of reasons there, it sounds like, to be depressed.
Yeah, no, it's...
And feel lost, yeah.
I feel like there's a bit of... There's two things here. One is I feel like there's a bit of mass hysteria. It's almost how like trends, but in a dark side of things. If people start becoming afraid of things, they start seeing things and they start hearing things about that. And especially a community that has a lot of issues with depression, mental illness, and they're not getting adequate treatment and they're having a lot of other problems they're dealing with. I think this is a big mass hysteria issue. And I normally wouldn't say that about cryptids, but I think this one specifically is no good. With all due respect to, with, you know, like the cultural beliefs and everything, could there be a spiritual entity to this? Yes,
it is possible.
But the other side of that is too, the more people believe in things like that, the more power it gives to them.
True.
So the best fight against Walking Sam is the acknowledgement there is no Walking Sam, I think.
Yeah. The acknowledgement of your own mental state at that point.
Yes.
You really just have to get help and work on anything. Just do something to get yourself out of it.
And this cryptid, I think, downplays the fact that people are having actual mental struggles that are driving them to, you know, actually committing suicide.
Yeah.
And people are putting it on a spiritual being that wanders in the woods rather than mental struggles. I did struggles again of teenagers living in the area, which is not a good thing.
No.
If you ask me.
No.
I feel like we need to actually be accountable of what the issue is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not hide behind the Walking Sam legend. I think this is a big mass hysteria issue. I think he might be there. He might be very real for people, but that doesn't mean he is very real.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right.
He is a real problem. He is a real problem in the community. People
Right.
are seeing Walking Sam. People hear Walking Sam calling to them, and people are struggling with depression.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make Walking Sam real or have power over anyone else. On kind of an upswing, though, for all of this, the suicide numbers have dropped for teenagers after 2015.
Okay, good. So we're 10 years past that now, and on the swing.
Still, that's fairly recent.
Yeah.
Anybody from that area has been negatively affected by this. Anybody has been negative, and that entire area has had negative effects from Walking Sam during 2015. People remember that year just because of all the suicides of children.
It's only been 10 years, so it's still something that's anyone involved is still around. We're not talking about something from the 20s. We're not talking about something from the 1800s or early America. We're talking about something in this century.
Yeah.
So
I almost didn't want to do this episode when I got further into the research, but then I thought it would be a real bad thing to not talk about it because of how important it is to really address Walking Sam here.
We bring it up every time we do things like this. Well, like this is the first time we've done something like this.
This dark. I don't want to do it again, but we will.
We talk about all of it. If it's obscure, serious, funny, stupid, if it's a legend or a cryptid, we're going to cover it, and we're going to give it the respect and the story that it needs to be told. Yeah, in the format that it needs to be told. So in this case, this is our first really serious dark tale, and that's why we're taking it as seriously and cutting out some of the stuff that we would normally do in the lighthearted fashion that we would normally do it, because it's got to keep the tone proper. But it's still important. It's still important to talk about it. It's still important, if anything, to bring awareness about this. Because I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Up until we got our research done, and it sounds bad, was excited. Because I was like, I knew what Walking Sam looked like. Yeah. And I was like, this is going to be fun. This will be cool. And then we read about him, and I went, shit.
And you know what blows my mind, too? In 2015, there's a wave of, 100 suicide attempts in this small community.
And I didn't know about it.
Yeah, they're addressing Congress. I didn't even know about it. You know, I didn't know that there was groups of kids that were just constantly trying to kill themselves, and like over 100 attempts and a lot of actual suicides.
I mean, that's 10 years ago. I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm able to understand what's going on in the world.
This should have had a lot more national attention. I don't know if there's a reason why they didn't give it national attention, but it definitely deserved some awareness.
Yes.
Afterwards,
which goes back into why we do this.
Wait, exactly. No,
needs to be talked about.
Yeah. So that's. I think that's all I have for Walking Sam.
Honestly,
I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I don't want to.
Yeah, there's not much more to go on with this one.
It's sad.
It's sad. It's serious, and it is. There's not much more to go with this.
You can't really have a good episode talking about
sad things,
killing themselves. That's terrible. When there's real lives lost. That's
it's tough. So, with all that being said, as we go through with every episode, if you're just lurking and watching, give us a follow. We appreciate it. Like we said at the beginning of this episode, this is not our normal format. We're a lot more fun than this. So if this is your first time watching, check out some old episodes and see what's like back there. With that being said, if you're not already, join us in our Discord, where we talk about all the cool, fun stuff going on with the cryptid world and the paranormal world. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook to see updates on everything we're doing, conventions, investigations, the schedule of our cryptids, all that other cool stuff. Go check out our merch on Designs by Humans. When Walking Sam hits our merch store, all of the proceeds that come from Walking Sam are going to go straight toward suicide prevention.
Yes.
So anything sold with Walking Sam's likeness on it, all of those profits are going to be 100% sent to charities.
Yeah, we're not going to take any money from the Walking Sam merch. So if you guys buy a Walking Sam mug or a shirt or something, all of that money is going to go straight to charity.
Yeah, 100%.
So
check that all out. And I think that's everything. Oh, follow us on TikTok.
Yeah.
Check out my Letterboxd if you like movies. I've got a list there of cryptid movies and ghost movies. Check out my Goodreads if you like reading. I got a list there.
No one reads anymore, AJ. Reading's boring.
Listen, man, reading's awesome.
Yeah.
So check out all of our cool stuff, and we will catch you guys in the next one with a much happier, more fun tone.
Yes. Cool. Peace out.